So most of us are familiar with the national conversation around the changing nature of work enabled by gig platforms like Lyft, Uber, Instacart, and others. What we don't hear enough about in this larger conversation is the experience of financially vulnerable workers. By surveying over 1,000 lower-wage workers and speaking directly with over 50 lower-wage non-traditional workers, we at Commonwealth wanted to better understand how these workers were experiencing the changing nature of work so that we could amplify their voices in this larger conversation. So in our research, we uncovered a diverse spectrum of lower-wage work arrangements, ranging from more traditional jobs like administrative assistants to more non-traditional work arrangements like gig work or freelancing. When it came to the financial challenges of these workers, we found that all lower-wage workers, regardless of work arrangement, felt financial pressure. Now, this shouldn't be a huge surprise to those of us in the room since we're talking about lower-wage workers. But what struck us was that even those in more traditional work arrangements, like the admin assistants, also felt financial pressure, citing income volatility and that access to benefits was not universal. Nevertheless, workers in more non-traditional work arrangements, like gig workers and freelancers, were less likely to have access to health and retirement benefits and experienced more income volatility and unpredictability than other workers. Now, although non-traditional workers experience relatively more financial pressure, the ones we spoke to shared a nearly unanimous sentiment about their financial challenges. I can use more money, but who can't? Instead of dwelling on their financial challenges, they expressed hopes of a better future for themselves and for those around them. These three quotes were common examples of what we heard from non-traditional workers about their aspirations. We spoke with individuals who were trying to patch together income through various work opportunities to launch their own businesses, freelancers pursuing the career of their dreams, and parents wanting better futures for their children. But these workers also shared that they aspired to attain better jobs and work opportunities. When we asked them what they wanted in their ideal jobs, they expressed a desire to have their basic needs met, including having a steady income, good benefits, flexible work hours, etc. But they also expressed a desire to have their higher needs met, such as being valued and recognized for their work, being respected by their colleagues and superiors, and having opportunities to learn and grow in their work. What struck us was that these basic and higher needs were completely in line with what the research identifies as qualities of a good job. This goes to show that what financially vulnerable non-traditional workers want in their ideal jobs isn't that much different from what you or I would want. So all this begs the question, why did the non-traditional workers we spoke with pursue this line of work, whether it be driving for Lyft or completing projects for TaskRabbit? What we found was that non-traditional work was most often not a last resort for these workers. Instead, they made informed decisions to pursue this work, and they chose it out of a desire to have more of their basic or higher needs met that previous traditional jobs did not. This word cloud, whenever it appears, is there. This word cloud represents the words most often cited by non-traditional workers in describing how they felt about their work. What's interesting to note is that the biggest words in this word cloud are mostly positive, including flexible, exciting, and interesting. But workers also acknowledge the drawbacks of pursuing this work, sharing that it can be challenging, stressful, and frustrating. But let's start with the positives, since this is what we most often heard. Firstly, flexibility by far was the most common word used to describe their feelings towards their work. Parents in particular appreciated the flexibility of non-traditional work because of the control it gave them over their schedules. This quote is from a young single mother who stressed how much she appreciated the flexibility her gig work gave her because it essentially allowed her to structure her work life around her son. But we also heard workers describe their work as interesting, sharing that it allowed them to meet new people and to see the impact of their work more directly. This quote is from someone who has essentially done gig work her whole life, sharing that she loves the variety of her work and the ability to see directly how her work benefits others. However, there are clear drawbacks to doing non-traditional work, of course. A few workers shared that the inherent instability of the work could be stressful and emotionally taxing. This quote is actually from an independent nonprofit consultant we interviewed who spoke at length about the anxiety he feels due to the instability of independent work, including not knowing when the next project might come through or not having a consistent income month to month. But despite these drawbacks, the positives of non-traditional work outweighed the negatives for most of these workers. In weighing the trade-offs of non-traditional work, workers considered a potential return to traditional work, and for many of them, this was an unpalatable alternative. This quote from an Uber driver we spoke with exemplified this sentiment. "I hear all of my friends on Friday complaining about their week and being so happy it's Friday. For me, any day could be Friday, and also could be happy." So what does this all mean? Should we encourage more workers to take on non-traditional work? I would argue this is the wrong question to ask. What's important to understand is that before the rise of gig and independent work, lower wage workers were stuck with job options that met few of their needs. The changing nature of work has given these workers choice, or the opportunity to choose from a greater variety of work arrangements that may better suit their needs. Now, this is not to say that one work arrangement is better than the other. Instead, we should focus on understanding the positive aspects of both traditional and non-traditional work and to find ways to incorporate these positives into all lower wage work arrangements. So for instance, traditional workers experience greater income predictability and stability and have greater access to benefits. So how can we incorporate these aspects of traditional work into non-traditional work? But in turn, non-traditional workers have greater autonomy in how they do their work, more control over their schedules, and in increasing cases, have more access to their income when they need it. So how can we make traditional work more similar to non-traditional work in these ways? And of course, we should continue to investigate how we can increase the wages that all these workers make. So by tackling these challenges and capitalizing on the positives of both traditional and non-traditional work, we can create more meaningful lower wage jobs that meet workers' basic and higher needs and successfully enable them to build financial security. Thank you.